Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the PRL LMP2 series. It's round 9 of the championship. We're getting so close to closing out this season, but we are no closer to knowing who our champion is going to be, because at the top of that table, it is as tight as it can get. We're at Barcelona today, and we're winding it back to 1995. Barcelona, circuit to Barcelona-Catalunya circuit, running that historic 1995 circuit layout, and you'll see all of the action, as always, here on the Global SimRacing Channel. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me, Joe Peak. Behind the scenes is Sean Ambrose, using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get into it, let's take a closer look at this track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get a pass done. After that, your next hope might be into La Caixa, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day.
There's a look from overhead of the Circuit de Barcelona circuit, adorned very brightly by its name in the middle of turn number 7 there. But Joe, this is a circuit which, well, being the historic layout, could lend itself to these cars quite nicely because they're going to be carrying some pretty high speeds to those final 2 corners and down the main straight.
Absolutely. It's going to suit these LMP2s with all the downforce that they have. But just like we see with Formula One, it's going to be hard for them to stay within the wake of each other. And, well, obviously there's no DRS on these things. But that said, this is a race that includes a pit stop. And I think that's going to make a big difference today, especially how drivers try and utilize their strategy throughout. So some of it will probably be a bit of playing it patient, waiting for mistakes from the car ahead. And some of it will just be trying to play your cards right as you see things unfold. But regardless, it's a modern track with what is a very modern car. So I think they'll be pretty well suited to this place.
Going to be a lot of fun, that's for sure. As always, today's race is brought to you by Simsa. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and, of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. And today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. The ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So, penultimate round of the championship, round 9 of 10. This is how the championship looks then in terms of the drivers. Just 36 points cover our top 5. It is led by Rodrigo Meets on 229 points. Mauricio Cuero are only 12 away in second. Munoz is 24 away in third. Vodolf and Holland make up the rest of that top 5. It swung in Meets' favour last week, but this championship has been changing week in and week out, Joe. And in the teams' standings, it is pretty close as well.
It's close-ish, but unfortunately for everybody else, P1 and P2 in the championship are both Punto CL Red Racing drivers. So they're looking very good right now. Delta Sport UK actually has 4th and 5th in the point standing right now, with Modolf and Holland in there. So that's why we see them in the 2nd place. CL Racing Blue as well, holding down 3rd, not too far behind. From there on back, it starts to get to be pretty big gaps. Pure Sim eSports and TQ Engineering Green rounding out the top 5. But even though there's still opportunities for things to be overtaken, I think the Punto CL Racing Red guys do have it pretty well covered.
We'll see how it pans out it's still an attainable gap for Delta Sport E4K, but they definitely need things to go their way tonight here at Barcelona. Race details, as always, it's a 60-minute race. It's an open setup for these drivers so they can test and tune the car however they please. A drive-through if they hit 13 incidents, a disqualification if they hit 18, a bonus point. That point so critical for fastest lap, pole position, or for finishing with 3 incidents or less. And if you're Rodrigo Meets, Mauricio Cuero, Paulo Munoz, you need to really try and grab that extra bonus point because, well, the championship is really going to come down to those fine margins.
Absolutely. And, well, Cuero's been trying so hard to finally get that first win, and it keeps being denied. Mies, with 3 of them right now, is certainly looking like the man to beat. But he's actually only got less than a 10th over Cuero currently on the track. And we saw this when we were here recently with the Lotus 79s. It was incredibly tight amongst the top drivers. It seems that once you got this place locked in, it's very, very fine margins that makes the difference.
Well, look at the top 3 right now in qualifying. 600ths or closer to 700ths of a second covering Lewis, Meets, and Cuero. It is as tight as it gets. 200ths between the top 2. Sean Duhamel there was trying to get a decent toe off Gaiori down the main straight, but that's going to hinder him through the rest of the lap, I would suspect. As here is one of the Delta Sport E4K representatives, second in the team's championship, David Holland, who sits 5th in the drivers out of the last corner. What time does he do as he comes across the line? It's a 28.5. That puts him up to P4.
Yeah, it's going to be so important that you get a good qualifying today. Like I said, passing's not expected to be terribly easy as Modov is coming to the line, and looks like that one didn't count for him. So he's going to park it, maybe take some fresh tires and try to get back out there. Now, interesting thing about the tires here, Ryan, is it takes a fair bit to get them up to temperature. You're really not able to push the car as hard as you like until you get a few laps on them, unless you take quite a bit of pressure out of it. And look at that, Mies, wow, with a big marker over everybody else.
28.113. That is very quick. Crucially, though, it is 3/10 away from what he did in practice. He was one of 2 drivers in practice that went sub at 1 minute 28. Himself and Nathan Lewis. So, well, they're 1 and 2 at the moment in the session, but neither of them have got to that marker yet. Can they get there? Will that number be required for the pole? Lewis, with a bit to find now, a quarter of a second away. Here's the guy, Vector Sim Racing. The very distinctive livery, black and green. Or is it green and black, Joe?
I guess take your pick. Yeah, that Vector team really is easy to spot, considering we get so many that are either red or blue or white or some variation of that. And the guy, it's like, I don't think he improved that time rounds. Yeah.
Picks up an off-track most likely, or it was an outlap. Either way, he will try again. This time up through turn 1 and 2, yeah?
Yeah, there's a couple spots where you can get those pretty easily. Out of the final turn, one of them, which has probably got to be frustrating, knowing that you've gone that whole lap and then screwed it up in the final one. But then you get places such as Campsa. It's the fast right-hander in the middle of the lap that it's not quite flat out. You need a little bit of a lift. If you go tiny bit wide out of there, you can rack those up. And that's not just important here in qualifying. During the race, if they get too many of those, we'll see disqualifications, which would be horrible for their championship hopes.
Isley records no time on that effort. Thankfully, I think off tracks at the last quarter are slightly less difficult to achieve with this historic layout. Because normally you have that really awkward chicane at the end of the lap, and you're trying to push so hard to finish off your strong lap, and it's so easy to get it wrong and overshoot the corner. Don't quite have that issue this time today as Fridays crosses the line, and that wasn't representative at all either. Behind him, it's one of those Victor cars crossing the line. That was Sean Romig. No time from him either. A lot of drivers just not recording a lap time as they cross the line. Uribe, can he shake the curse? He can, but he's 3/10 off what he'd already done earlier on that had put him up into 10th.
Got my eyes on Holland as he comes down and across the line. And he's not going to go quicker. It looks like a little bit of a slower lap. I wonder if there's a lot of guys out there that are just pushing that little bit too hard right now and catching those off tracks. Because there's, like I said, there's so little to find in it once you kind of lock in the lap around here using the downforce to your advantage. And they're trying to find something that just isn't there.
Christian Eisler, P6 right now. He's a 10th of a second away from cracking the top 5. Can he find it? No, he can't. That was 3 seconds off. And he will have 2 more attempts left if he doesn't make a mistake in the next 2 laps. Ignacio Rodriguez Frides through the high speed final corner, mid-corner speed of 192 kilometers an hour. So he winds up all of the track on the exit and crosses the line. Again, a 29.1. Not going to find himself an improvement. Behind him, Sean Romig is currently 14th as he crosses the stripe. He will stay 14th because he couldn't register a lap time. His teammate Ted Lowendijk just came out of pit road. That was an outlap for him. Byron Daly's just on the outside of the top 10, looking in at the moment. In fact, sorry, he's back in 18th. 19th, sorry. He crosses the line. He'll stay 19th.
I saw Bagai improve, but didn't jump up any positions. Holland goes faster and onto the front row with a 28.2. He's about a 10th off of Mies now.
Mauricio Cuero. Ooh, good job to keep that relatively straight, but do I need to say that time won't count? Kenny Rodriguez then, 22nd at the moment. Can he get himself off the back of the grid? Not with that effort. He's got one more trick up his sleeve. Karmodov, he finds one spot and goes to 6th, up onto the 3rd row of the grid. Christian Eisler, who just got knocked out of 6th, will stay 7th. And he will wrap up his session as Meets crosses the line. Doesn't find another improvement. The time he just did would have been 4,000 slower than Holland. If he hadn't already registered a 28.1. Michael Overbay is 11th. Can he get into the top 10? Not with that lap. He was 700ths off his previous best. Frides. Wow. 7.73. Not as good as his 7.66 he'd already done, but very close.
Checkered flags out, so everybody on their hot lap has got to wrap this up. I think Daly's going to be our first here. Still down in 19th. Bit inconsistent. Seems to kind of get a lap on and a lap off. You are allowed to go pretty wide there out of Europe car, so that will count. And that looks clean on the final corner, so let's see what he's got. Oh, there we go, 29.9, and up 1 spot. That's good enough.
Hugo Galaz is 20th at the moment. 1 minute 30.113. He's not far away. If he finds a second, he goes up to 13th. It's a pretty tight field. Only 2 seconds across the top 20, which is probably one of the closest spreads we've actually seen.
Absolutely.
Boy, he took a lot of that penultimate corner, didn't he? Really chopped the inside. I wonder if there's an off-track to be had on the inside there. I guess we'll find out as he crosses the line. It does register, and it's 0.013 slower than his previous best.
I was absolutely surprised when I was doing laps around here how much you could take out of that second to last corner. It's pretty much legal. Basically, as long as you don't go over the cones, you can pretty much go over much of that curb and still get away with it. Expect a lot of the fast drivers to be doing that.
That looks like everyone in qualifying has done their time and retired to the pits. So with that, let's take a look at our starting grid then. Here at Barcelona for round 9 of the PRL LMP2 series. Rodrigo Meets, championship leader, starts on pole. David Holland is 5th and he starts 2nd. He needs to win, needs to finish ahead of Meets if he wants to have a chance coming into the final round. Paulo Munoz is in the picture. He will start 3rd. Nathan Lewis from 4th. Cuero is 2nd in the points. He starts 5th. Modov shares row 3 with him. Christian Eisler and Horatio Calquin on row 4, Ignacio Rodriguez Frides and Pablo Valenzuela Uribe on row 5.
Overbay is going to start in 11th with Ferraris in the 12th position. Gaiori will be P13. Rome good enough for 14th spot, followed by Munoz down in 15th. Unusually low for Teddy. He's only going to start in 16th spot today. And Christopher Richards starts in 17th. We saw Daly's last attempt got him up into the 18th position, with Bagai into 19th, Galaz 20th, and the last two drivers, everybody setting a time, Duhamel and Rodriguez. Ryan?
Yep, so 22 cars then for this race. Pit stop required, as always. And I'm very interested to see how this one pans out. It's a high-speed racetrack, and these are high downforce cars. We know that oftentimes that doesn't mix. But there is a long, long straight out of the last corner down to the braking zone of turn 1. Surely overtaking opportunities will arise there, especially with the run out of turns 12 and 13. Should be flat out through turn 13. What about turn 12? Are you taking that one flat, Joe?
Are you talking about the penultimate corner and into Europe car?
Yes.
It's a tiny little lift. I actually found that I needed more of a lift through the final turn. It's not quite there. Yeah. It's honestly just not. The car tends to want to push out way too much. So if anything, that's what's going to make it the toughest, trying to overtake down into the first corner, is just being able to withstand the wake of the car ahead, since you're not totally flat out through there. If anything, what I think it will do is on this first lap down into turn 1, we might get some aggressive moves. We saw that again, referencing the Lotus 79s. It all kind of came apart for a number of drivers on lap 1, turn 1, when they thought they saw an opportunity, and unfortunately, it just kind of fell apart.
The first sector of the first lap at this track is very tricky. You rise up the hill through turns 1 and 2, and then turn 3 is a never-ending corner that you can pick up the throttle relatively early in these cars. So there could be a few drivers running wide on the exit of turn 3, but turn 1 is a right-hander, turn 2 is a left-hander. It's an elongated chicane almost, and drivers trying to throw themselves up into there while trying to get early overtakes done. We know doesn't always go well. Just look at Monza for an example. But it is in the hands of Rodrigo Meeks. He wants to get himself up and away ahead of this field and free of the drama. The iRacing.com Porsche pace car is going to dive to pit road, and Rodrigo Meeks is going to lead us to the field for round 9 of the PRL LMP2 Le Mans Series. As we wait, and we wait, and we go, and Meeks gets away to an excellent start. Holland will go with him in second. And look behind for P3. Already, here comes Paulo Munoz to the outside of Holland to turn 1.
Oh, he's deep on the brakes. He might be able to get this done because he'll have the inside of the next one. And he gets it. Poor Cuero is caught out, though. He already started far down the order. Remember, he's challenging Mies for this championship. This is not good. Although, oh, he's going to get a spot. His Modoff off.
Not a good start for Cuero, trying to take it away on the inside for turn 4 there. Going to be on the wrong side of the racetrack at this hairpin turn 5, and now he aggressively gets to the inside, locks up the rears. That car is a little bit, oh no, there he goes.
Yep, cold tires, and he's going to get hit big time. That is pretty much any hope of a decent result gone for Cuero. That damage is way too big. These drivers need to remember cold tires here at the start. The cars are not going to handle how they want them to, and already some of them are pushing way too hard.
So Cuero, second of the championship, is at the back of the field. Championship leader leads this race. This could break the championship in the favor of Meeks, but he's got 58 minutes still ahead of him. Pressure's on him now. It is in his hands. Out of the last corner to complete lap number 1. Meeks leads us across the line. Paulo Munoz is up to second after starting 4th. Good jump from him. David Holland will cross the stripe 3rd. Then comes Nathan Lewis, Karl Modov, Christian Eisler, Horatio Calquin, Ferraris, and looks like 9th goes away of Fredes, 10th goes away of Uribe.
Fredes awful close to Ferraris back there. and had a little bit of a look from Modoff on Lewis, but then decided it wasn't worth it. It wasn't close enough. You can see the drivers really using as much as they can of the road here. There's some of those spaces where the paved runoff is all legal, and they can get the car pretty far out there. You have to use those just to carry the momentum through them.
Yeah, when you come to a high-speed track, you've got to use all the racetrack. It's also so tricky to juggle that with not going too far and picking up an off-track, such as right here. That's so close, isn't it? You see how much they're using the racetrack. And then through such a high-speed corner leading onto the back straight. It's interesting how it's high speed that leads onto both of the straights here at Barcelona.
That's part of what adds to the difficulty in overtaking, especially in these high downforce cars. Just because trying to stay up tight to that gearbox is difficult with all the dirty air buffeting over the car. You almost essentially need to wait for a mistake from the car ahead unless you've got a significant pace advantage.
The gap is extended on this lap in favor of Rodrigo Meets. It's 1.2 seconds then. Paulo Munoz still second, no change really anywhere inside the top 10. Ferraris is under a little bit of pressure from Fredes, but he's slightly eased it over the last 4.7 kilometers. There they are on the screen, heading up through and into turn 3. In fact, this is a battle for 6th, just in front of them. Horatio Calquin and Christian Eisler.
And in front of them, Modoff actually managed to finally overtake Lewis down into Elf, so he got that one done. Let's actually take a look at the replay on this one. I think he did exactly what you've been talking about, getting the good exit and the slipstream down the front stretch, and makes it look easy. In fact, I don't think Lewis defends. Yeah, he saw the writing on the wall, just decided, okay, let's let him have it.
Well, there's no point, is there? It's so early on in the race. If you defend the inside at turn 1, you're slow through turn 2, you're then most likely offline at turn 3, and you lose more time than you would if you just let him go like he did. So that's a good call there. You never want to fight for a position. There's no point fighting.
Yeah.
See how it out later on in the race for Lewis.
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of a pick your battles sort of thing. You can see how much space that Modoff has already taken over him. Lewis probably knew he had that pace advantage, and like you said, he just decided, we're going to lose too much time if I try and fend him off lap after lap. Was this another battle down into one? Looked like Munoz trying to break the draft there for a second.
Yeah, Munoz is only 7 tenths ahead of Holland right now. He's certainly more likely to lose a spot than gain a spot, but I don't think he's under pressure despite that. You know, it's still a relatively comfortable margin he's got. 7 tenths isn't disastrous at this track. You know, we talk about getting the run out of those high-speed corners. I love that helmet. Onto the main straights. But the downside is if you're about where Holland is now comparative to Munoz, you lose time. You know, the dirty air starts to affect your car, and you can't keep your speed up as much as you'd like through those corners. But further back, Nathan Lewis is under a lot of pressure because behind him, Horatio Calquin is lined up behind Christian Eisler, who's lined up behind Lewis.
Not sure what's going on with Lewis here because he qualified decently. He was in 4th. He's already lost 1 spot. He's going to lose another potentially. Eisler thought about it and couldn't quite get it under braking down into Lakaija. But after being overtaken, I mean, Lewis has not only dropped to Modoff, but is in the clutches here of both Eisler and Calquin. So I don't know if maybe the car is just not good early in the run or what.
And Michel Ferraris and Fredes are coming as well at the back of these 3. Could become a very big train of cars, but look at this. Down the main straight, the run is going to be there for Christian Eisler, and I think Lewis might have just edged out of the throttle there because suddenly a huge burst of speed for Eisler. To the inside he goes, and Lewis just finds the gap in between those 2 Punto racing cars and tucks it in front of Calquin.
That was an oval race. You need the spotter to tell him that he could slide in there. That was amazing judgment from Nathan to be able to fit his car between the pair of them. I don't know if maybe he has damage or something, and he knows that he's a little bit down on speed in certain places, because I'm not used to Nathan giving up this easily. He's going to go wide again. And I definitely shouldn't fight this one. Too wide into vert is a horrible idea, and indeed he's going to go single file.
Going side by side through there as well, if you're on the outside, it's a very easy way to pick up an off track, even if you do get through there cleanly.
Yeah, and that corner too also causes a lot of wheel spin if you get too greedy on it. You kind of have to be patient, even though it's a relatively swift corner. So it's a tricky one all around, Ryan.
Look how it's dragged Ferraris and Fredes up to them. I noted about this place last up, they were catching as well. Well, the gap is now completely evaporated, and they've been dragged right up onto the back of Lewis, who is so slow right now. Doing 250 down the main straight. He's so slow. Look at this. Here they go. 3 wide down towards turn 1. To the inside of Lewis, Ferraris, and Fredes. Fredes on the inside. Gets them both, but on the exit, slightly compromised. They stack up. A little bit of contact. They all get away with it, and Lewis drops 2 spots.
Wow, great stuff from Ignacio. I thought maybe he was going to hand that back, but he parked it on the apexes, which is exactly what you need to do in that situation. It just holds up everybody behind you and keeps them from pulling the over-under.
All right, who's next for Lewis? Looking in his rearview mirror. Uribe is there. Romig is coming with Gaiori as well. What is the issue for Nathan Lewis? Qualified 4th, but looking like he's got a car that might not even be good enough for the top 10.
I'm starting to suspect that it's some sort of damage or something. For good enough for 4th, and there goes another one. Uribe gets him in Lakaija. I wonder if something on the under tray, because we can't really see anything from our camera angles here that looks out of place on the car. He could have potentially gone over a curb, because there are some tall ones around here that you could accidentally clobber too hard.
Well, you mentioned the underside of the race car as we go with our ButtKicker GSRC on board here with Nathan Lewis. You can't see the rearview mirror, but you won't need to, because wait just a couple of seconds and out the right-hand side, over the right front corner of the car, emerges Sean Romig up the inside. Oh, you mentioned the other side of the car and damage on it. There's nothing visible on the outside. But think back to the Formula 1 race at Turkey. The pole sitter dropping down the order, because what did they find after the race? Damage underneath the front wing, on the bottom of the car where they couldn't see it. And it affected his pace greatly. Could we have a similar scenario for Lewis?
Exactly, yeah, and that's what I'm suspecting, is that he may have just gone over one of the bigger yellow sausage curbs somewhere that we just didn't catch it on camera, and that's costing him. Now, what he might want to do in this situation is potentially try a little bit of an earlier pit than usual. Yes, it might stick him back into the traffic, but, well, he's going to be back in that traffic at this rate anyways, because he needs to get that fixed.
But how much time does he lose if he does have to get it fixed?
It's something that you honestly just don't know until you get into pit lane. It's kind of where you have to make a judgment call and think, I'm losing too much time. He'll know what his regular pace can be in this race, and he'll know if, as he goes way off into the kitty litter there from Holland, he'll know if this is actually slowing him enough that it would make sense to at least trying to get it fixed. Because sometimes if you don't get it fixed, then you lose more time than you would if you just give up a few extra seconds in the pit stop. Behind him, I think Munoz just got by Daly for 13th spot.
Yep. He is indeed ahead of him now. Ooh, a little bit wide there from, I think that was Gaiori, maybe Lewis we saw through turn 3. They got the same livery on their car. They're from the same team, don't forget. Munoz, wonder if he's got a chance of catching these two. I think based off lap times, he certainly does. He was quicker than both of them on the last lap. Quicker than Daly as well, who he then passed down at the first corner. 1.6 seconds is the current gap between Gaiori and Munoz.
Tell you what, Daly, and we didn't really pay attention to him at the start, but remember, he qualified 18th. He was up to 13th at the start of this lap. Obviously, he's down one. Considering how much trouble everybody else is having trying to overtake, that's pretty impressive for the first 8 laps here.
Is he our biggest mover? Yes, I think he is. No, Kenny Rodriguez, a little bit further back, has picked up 4 spots. They're even, aren't they? Anyway, let's go to P8 on the racetrack. You'll find Michel Ferraris and a rebate. Fredez has run away from Ferraris after getting by, courtesy of Nathan Lewis.
Yeah, clearly making hay where the sun shines there. And Ferraris is another one that's gone up quite a bit. He's up 4 spots. He's under pressure, though. Uribe looks like he might have something for him because we're riding on board with Ferraris right now. And, oh, wow, great exit off of Seat, though. Uribe really has no answer for him, which is really good through this part of the course. This is where he wants to try and start to get away so that once they get to the front stretch, he has enough of a gap. He doesn't even have to worry.
Uribe just tucking back to the racing line. They're not bothering trying to get the slipstream. You might have noticed as well that with the historic layout, we run slightly longer down that back straight. The braking zone gets pushed back maybe 100 meters, and we take the longer of the 2 turn-offs at turn number 10. Is that the same layout that MotoGP used down that corner?
I have to confess, I don't watch MotoGP, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, neither do I. I think I'd heard mentioned that it's what MotoGP used, but either way, it is the longer layout. It's what they used back in 1995, along with the complete lack of a final chicane, which was introduced to aid overtaking that chicane. But as it turns out, it kind of takes away the overtaking opportunities now for the premier categories that come to Barcelona. Thinking about Formula One, and there's been some talks actually for them to bring back this layout with the long sweeping final 2 corners instead, but it remains to be seen whether that happens. Personally, I'm for it. As we've seen today, it's definitely opening up some opportunities down at the first corner, as Uribe is pretty much just staying stagnant behind Michel Ferraris right now, not really able to find enough time to get up to the back and close in.
No, this race is really looking like it's playing into the hands of Mies, though. He's leading by 4 seconds at this point, with his main rival a DNF and dead last. In fact, I don't think Carrero is going to get any points since he didn't complete half the race. So Rodrigo's sitting pretty. In fact, I thought, well, like you said, it was a long race. He might not fight that hard and just collect points since there's so few rounds left, and this is going to give him such a huge gap. No, he's running away with this thing and spanking the field.
There has been absolutely no change between second and third. It was 7/10 after lap 1 or 2, and it's about 7/10 now on lap number 11. Back behind Munoz and Holland, who are second and third. Kyle Modov is running all on his lonesome in P4. About 2 seconds away from that battle ahead. Christian Eisler is P5. He's about 5 seconds off. So at second through fourth, pretty evenly matched, I'd say. Rodrigo meets out front in a lane of his own, and then Christian Eisler on back, P5 on back, are in another sort of league, because if you look behind Eisler, you find Horacio Calquin's pretty close, Fredez is pretty close, and I don't think it's a coincidence. They're all teammates.
Yeah, likely sharing a little bit of setup info. Oh, and Lewis with a big problem. I think this is over in Campsa.
Yep, he's off. Just gets it back on the racetrack now. So his day is going to go from good to bad to worse.
He did hit the wall.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. That's a good example of what I was discussing earlier. Coming off of vert, it looks like he was trying to stretch it as far wide as he could and just mash the power down. And unfortunately, the car snapped on him. That's what sent him off to the left side and just wound up leading. Oh, and he's actually got enough damage. He's going to come in and get it repaired. He should be able to get to the end from here. I believe this is within the window. It's just, it's going to put him even farther down into the field.
What a shame for Lewis. It was only a couple rounds ago. He was in the mix at that, top 5 sort of area in the championship, but back after the last couple of rounds of the season are not gelling how he would have hoped. Very tricky corner, that. The track dips away at turn 7 or turn 8. That's the issue. On the outside of the actual racing surface where the runoff is, and there's a yellow curb there as well, it actually dips away. And that's where you get that wheel spin, and it can flick the car into the wall on the left so easily.
Yeah, it does. It's such an odd corner because it's got all those elevation changes, a little bit of camber change too, and it's not just a fact of turning it left, it's got that little move back to the right. So multiple changes of directions, multiple different changes in the way the car is going to compress over the camber and the elevation changes. So there's a lot to keep track of, and that's partly why it's so single file.
This track as a whole, yeah.
I was going to say, Munoz is suddenly a little bit under threat here. Holland's got it down to 0.6 of a second. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this track as a whole can sometimes not offer up enough overtaking opportunities for high downforce cars. Purely based off how high speed it is. You got this long corner here at turn 4. Not really an overtaking opportunity from this far back. Turn 5, you can bomb it up the inside if you want, but they're not carrying enough speed into turn 5 for it to be a big enough braking zone for those opportunities to be really prevalent. And then, as you mentioned, turn 7 and 8 here, single file really, because the wheel spinning oversteer you can get. Turn 9 is high speed at single file only. Turn 10 is an opportunity, but it won't be this lap if you're David Holland.
I've been watching from the helmet cam here of Holland, and he's really sawing away at the wheel in some of these corners. Hard to tell if this is the wake of the car ahead that's disrupting his handling, or if just the setup of the car is starting to go away here. You can see how much he's cutting the inside of Europe car too, like we were talking about earlier. And this is where, yeah, man, can't get it to turn in. The car ahead, Munoz, just sucking up all the downforce.
We're just about to hit the 40-minute to go mark in this race, 20 minutes in, and Munoz and Holland have been relatively well matched in terms of outright pace since the start of this race. Holland was just fractionally slower on that previous lap as he drew closer to the back of Munoz, and as such further into the dirty air that Munoz is spewing from the back of his Dallara LMP2 machine. They're now 5 seconds away from the lead of the race in Rodrigo Meets, who's lapping about, if I can find him, sort of 0.3 quicker per lap.
Yeah, he's got this thing under control. Now, I'm noticing, I wonder if Munoz is backing up the cars behind him a little bit, because we're watching Holland chase and have a tough time. Modov is starting to approach about the same distance behind Holland, too. Now, if he can get closer, obviously he can threaten, but I kind of want to see if he stalls out as well. If this 1 second distance is sort of the buffer that they find themselves hitting the brick wall, if you will.
I think there's 3 stages to following someone. There's stage really far away where it's really easy.
Stage 2 is grief. I think we've either lost Ryan or my joke fell flat on that one. But yeah, it seems...
Yes, this one, blame is China. Stage 2 is, yes, grief, because you catch that dirty air and you can't get through it. But stage 3 is when you're right underneath them you're tucked right up underneath that rear wing, and the dirty air blows straight over your car. That's when you can make overtaking opportunities, but it is so hard to work through stage 2 that sometimes by the time you get to stage 3, your tires are gone.
Exactly. They suffer the same thing in Formula One, where you kind of have to be decisive in your moves. You have to really get up there quickly, and that's always easier said than done because you have to rely on a mistake to be able to try and get close to them without spending too much time fighting through that bubble. But yeah, even if you get close enough to attack, if you don't have the tires, if you don't have the mechanical grip, then you're just going to be sort of a lame duck. You've got there and you can't do anything with them. But that's where I think, again, strategy is going to play out. And we may have had one of our drivers start that because Kenny Rodriguez has come in, and I think he might be taking regular service. I'm checking to see here.
50 seconds in the lane.
Yeah, that's a little longer than usual.
Stop.
Yeah.
Considering his pit box is at the start of the lane.
Yeah, I think... And he seems to be out of the car. Now, I didn't see him hit anything. I went back and checked. There's no contact with another car or the wall or anything, so I'm not totally sure what's going on. Lewis, by the way, did come out for a brief while, and now he's back in trying to get yet more repairs, so he wasn't happy with how the car was handling the first time he exited.
3 laps down. Poro, by the way, retired after his incident on lap 1. He's 13 laps down now, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, will score no points from this race. Closest battle on the racetrack at the moment would probably go the way of P8, maybe. Michel Ferraris and, nope, Uribe. They are about a second away. But it's been interesting watching Ferraris because he's had an interesting race at the moment. Started off pretty strong, up +4 from where Ferraris started. Had Fredes all over the rear wing. Fredes got past once Lewis got in the way. And then under a lot of pressure from Uribe, but has weathered the storm and is now actually starting to drive away from Uribe.
Yeah, which is exactly what you want in this sort of situation. That's really a confidence builder when you can see the car behind the gap start to increase. It's always a lot more tough mentally when you find that you can't shake the person. They're staying a consistent distance. When it grows, it sort of takes the pressure off and you get into the zone and you can start to hit your marks. You're focusing on your driving more and the other drivers less, which is really the key to being fast, if anything. Probably something why I'm not as fast is because I'm never very good at that. So I'm sure Ferraris is feeling a bit of a weight lifted off his shoulders at this point.
All it takes is one slip up and you'll be under pressure again.
True.
35 minutes left to go in this race. Let's take a look at the battle for P15.
Yeah.
Chico Galaz, up 5 spots, is in front of Michael Overbay, who's -5 spots.
So he might be slightly out of position here, which is bad news for Galaz, who has probably taken advantage of some of the cars that have had problems throughout today. But are we going to see yet more of the troubles with the dirty air here? Because Overbay, he's gotten to within 0.6 of a second, so this is looking good. If he can get within, I'd say maybe about 0.4 coming out of New Holland, the final corner, he probably could have a shot at passing, but that's not going to do it. He goes back to 0.7 and now 0.8 out of Campsa. So he is indeed finding it's too tough to keep the mechanical grip down on the car. Unless he gets a mistake from Galaz in these next couple corners, he's not going to be close enough on the final turn.
So Overbay on the recovery trail from a unfortunate opening stanza of this one.
Yeah. I think it was lap 2. I'm looking at his times. It was a minute 43 on that one. So he must have either had a spin or some sort of off that put him backwards.
And damn it, I just jumped on board with Overbay. And I remembered my pet peeve of this car joke. And you guess what it is?
left-hand drive?
Well, I suppose so, but more to the fact that the wheel's on the left, but the helmet's even further to the left. It's not centered. It's not straight.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's probably going to sound weird and sort of petty, but I've always preferred single seaters for that reason. I like being in the center of the car. These actually are so tough to see out of the cockpit of these vehicles. It's very claustrophobic in there, as it looks like Lowendick. Was that damage I saw pop back into place? Was he getting repairs?
38, 39, 40, yes. Just based off pit stop time alone.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little research, see if he hit anything on this lap or if it came a while ago. We're getting close to halfway, though.
Actually, it's 40 seconds a normal stop, isn't it?
Just about. He still could have gotten those repairs, though, but I didn't see anything in the lap prior.
Race leader Rodrigo meets 6.9, make it 7-second lead. Out onto the back straight away. Keeping it well within track limits, just about. Stomps onto the brake pedal into turn 10. And life is easy, life is good. Should be looking for a decent trip to the beaches of Barcelona after this.
He's been just unstoppable this season. He's had 4 poles, 2 fastest laps, and he's finished in the top 5 in 7 out of the 8 rounds. This is going to make it 8 out of 9 if he finishes where he is today.
Further from the front, there is a decent battle for P9. Uribe, as he continues to fall away from the back of Ferraris, in fact, something has transpired there because the gap is now 3 seconds, is probably going to start to get worried in a minute about Sean Romig.
Checking to see. I'm not seeing anything this lap that looks drastic, and last lap wasn't all that much slower.
Just pace?
Yeah, it's got to be pace. So Uribe's been falling like a rock now, much to the happiness of Romig, as you mentioned. You can see him in the vector car approaching pretty quickly. He's got about 9/10 to make up. There's that bubble we keep talking about. Now, can he get past that? Can he grit his teeth and manage to close in? And Overbay's in.
30 minutes left of the race. Split it straight down the middle. Why not? Through the dirty air. I mean, you're going to gain time by getting yourself into some clean air. Out of pit lane. That was, yeah, okay. A 19-second stop. So I think we can definitely rule 40-second as being out of the norm.
Critically for him, he gets out ahead of the leader. Although not by too much. It depends on how quickly Mies can try and approach the back of him. He could see blue flags, which would be really bad news. But like you said, very clear track now. Remember, he was fighting with Galaz before he came in. And I think maybe he thought, well, this is just going to hold me up. I might as well try and split this thing in half and see if I can make some time up and pass some cars through the leapfrog here. It's only time will tell on that one. And I'll keep an eye on his laps to see what that'll do.
For the race leader, Rodrigo Meech, you're going on as long as you can. You're going to run the feel out of the car because with cars built for endurance racing, the tyre longevity is pretty decent. And by the time you get to the end of 60 minutes, if you've still got it in you, you can put down personal bests for the race. So what I'm trying to get at is the lighter the car, the less fuel in the car, the quicker it should go. Because, well, fuel equals weight, and weight equals slow times. So he'll run the tank dry as much as he can, and then pit and fill it up as little as he can, and then go to the end. So expect him in at the end of the window out front. He may go a lap earlier, just to be safe if it's maybe a little bit tight on fuel.
Yeah, and for our viewers that aren't familiar with this style of racing and this car on iRacing, there's multiple reasons. It's not just the fuel. It is also the tires. They don't have warmers on them, so it's going to take you a bit to get them up to temperature anyways. And then on top of that, these cars, like at Le Mans, they cannot change tires and take fuel at the same time. It's against the rules. And so it lengthens your stop immeasurably. There's really no upside to coming in and taking tires in these 60-minute races, unfortunately. Romig's still working on a rebate, by the way. He's still at about 8/10 behind the number 23. We're seeing a lot of cars do this, that they've got pretty decent pace and they'll get up to someone and it looks like they might have a fight on their hands, and then it just kind of dissipates. It all peters out.
Yeah. Hello, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Dirty Air. It is the bane of everyone from racing drivers to series administrators who want to put on an entertaining show.
Friends, if Dirty Air's your friend.
Oh, I make friends with people that make everyone's lives more difficult. And haven't you learnt who I am yet, Joe?
Yeah, good point.
Devil reincarnated. Yeah, all right. So through turn 9, that's somewhere where the Dirty Air is a massive factor, which negates any advantage down here at turn 10. Romig on the brakes, though, is pretty decent. Might have slightly overcooked it, but showing glimpses of some decent performance on that.
Mies lost the lead. What happened?
What? Is he in pit lane?
No, he spun. He had a mistake out of the final corner. We need a replay of the 88 at the end of this last lap.
He hit the fence as well.
Wow.
An 8-second advantage it had just stretched to. All was going smooth. He drops the left sides on the gravel. It snaps back the other way into the tyre bundle. Now there are many questions to be answered here. How much damage is on his car? And where has he fallen to? Only second. But look at how the top 5 have suddenly condensed. There's just half a second between them now. 1.7 back to 4th. This has really closed up the top 4 in this race. Munoz has got a golden opportunity now. He's 24 points back in the championship. Quero is not scoring any, so he's going to be second after this race, you would imagine. Carl Modolf is third in the championship. He runs 4th. Both of them really need to finish out of Meets in this race. And both of them need to pray that Meets has picked up damage there, but based off this lap so far, he hasn't, because he's sticking with them.
Big mistake behind them. Holland had a bobble, and I think Holland's going to get overtaken by his teammate because, yep, Modolf down to the inside. That is a place you almost never see passes going into New Holland. Past Holland, appropriately.
Yeah, little mistake offering up that opportunity to Modolf, and while they are teammates and Modolf's got a more likely chance at the championship than Holland, Holland is still 5th in the championship. He isn't going to be giving up opportunities to score points. This really makes things lighten up in this one.
What's fascinating in this top group of 4, the only one amongst them that has drop points is Holland. But Mies and Munoz, as well as Modolf, are out of drop weeks. So they really can't afford a bad finish today. I think Mies more so. Oh, and a mistake out of Munoz is going to open it up, Ryan.
But into turn 9, Meets didn't want to throw it up the inside there. Speed was compromised for Munoz, which means the exit definitely came in favor of Meets. Now he has to look at the inside for turn 10. Does Munoz fight with the guy he knows is faster? I don't think he did there. He let him go, tucked back in line. He knows Meets has got the pace. There's not really any point fighting him and costing yourselves both more time. He's got to pray Meets makes another mistake in this one. As
and
Meets is playing with a very late call. Or at least a late entry.
I wonder if he's worried about any sort of damage he has, which would be weird because he just made that pass. So clearly he's still got great pace. I was about to say that he must have gotten very lucky considering how hard he slapped the wall. I think because he hit it broadside, the car maybe saw some grace and didn't get as damaged as we could have feared. Holland is going to join him. Calquin's in, and Ferraris as well.
expect the rest of the field next lap, because this is a lot of cars coming in this time by. It generally signifies the closing of the pit window. Meets is a very standard stop for him. No issues on pit road. Holland follows him off, and Meets rejoins in the middle of the action. This could hold him up. On his outlap, he's rejoined right behind Byron Daly. And that is bad news. Through turn 3, he's having a look at the inside, and they're running wheel to wheel now.
Daly should have. He's got the inside into Reptile, so it really should be an easy overtake as long as he's got the braking right. Oh, wow. Byron's fighting him all the way, though.
Not fighting him, more so just not trying to cost himself any time. No blue flags for him. That is for position for now, but Daly is yet to make his stop. Now, that did hold up Meets. He wasn't able to brake where he wanted for turn 1. He wasn't able to carry the line he wanted through turn 3 or turn 4. That's going to cost him. It could offer up an opportunity to Munoz here. If he pits on this lap and responds, which he has done. He's in pit lane now, along with Karl Modov right on his rear wing.
I think Modov was a lot more aggressive into pit lane down to the cones, the pit speed cones, because he gained what appeared to be a significant number of car lengths, and I don't think that was just the accordion effect. We'll see once they come out of pit lane. Where is Mies, though? He's coming through Europe car.
Through the final corner. Don't grab the gravel on the left. Shows how easy it is to do, though.
Oh, Modov jumped Munoz in the pit stop.
And they both jumped Meets. Wow. How about that? Modov goes from P4 to P1 in the space of 3 laps. Munoz back to 2nd. Meets back to 3rd. Holland a ways away in P4.
Modov with the shortest time in his stall of the top 4 in the race. And we saw this in the GTE series where Modov was very, very good about saving fuel. So I think he's, again, extending that to here, and he's looking at a nice win on the cards.
So, the last 20 minutes of this race, Joe, is going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out. There's 1st, there's 2nd, there's 3rd, there's 4th, and Hugo Galazbach there is not 5th, but, well, he is, but he's not. You know, get my guess, he's yet to pit, I believe.
Strategy. He just stretched it one time around.
I'm just thinking about the championship right now. Being the penultimate round, you know, it's so critical for Meets to head into the final round with a buffer, because you never know what can happen. There's just so much pressure heading in as the leader, knowing that they're right there breathing down your neck, and that itself can lead to mistakes. If he had a buffer, he'd probably be a little bit more comfortable. There's not as much pressure if you're chasing heading into that final round. For Quero, well, it's gone away from him. But for Munoz, Modov now, what an opportunity.
And the top 3 on track are in reverse order of how they are in the points, because Mies is in 3rd, but he's currently leading the points, whereas Munoz is 3rd in points, a little bit behind Mies, and then Modov is behind Munoz in the points, but then switch those around on the track, so it's going to tighten all of them up going into that last race. I don't know if Mies might make himself a part of this, though, because it looks like he's gaining. And we saw in the early part of the race, he did have better pace and stretched it out to, what, about 7 or 8 seconds at one point?
Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt he still has a better pace, but he just got caught out by the cars that had yet to pit when he came out of pit lane, and it slowed him up. But he is closing now on Munoz and Modov. Sean de Hamel is about to go a lap down. Expect him to get out of the way down this main straight, hopefully. Let this quartet go by him.
Yeah, there we go. Nice move from him. He knows if he gets off the racing line, that's a big signal that I'm going to lift. Everybody go by. But this lap traffic could also play a part, because these blue flags are purely informational. They are not required to move. They just are not allowed to impede the progress, which is a very loose way of interpreting blue flags.
It's a step more than NASCAR and a step less than F1.
Exactly. Basically, if you intentionally block, then you're going to go see the stewards, but you don't have to jump out of the way like we saw Duhamel just do.
Yeah. NASCAR being no blue flags whatsoever, and F1 being 3 blue flags to be shown, then you're getting a penalty for not letting them go. So with 17 minutes left to go, on a track where we know overtaking is difficult, we saw Meads get by Munoz pretty quickly after losing the spot, even with potential damage to his car. Now, was that a case of just the outright pace advantage he has? Or because he rejoined so close to the back of Munoz that he wasn't getting affected by the dirty air? We're going to get a picture of that now, because look where he is. Dirty air central.
He needs a fantastic exit off of New Holland, but I can see that he's dropping back some now. It goes pretty wide off of Europe car, and he needs a phenomenal run here, but I don't think there's going to be that sitting for him. Yeah, he's unfortunately going to be pushed back to about 8/10, and he's going to experience that lap after lap just because of the nature of this style of racing. So all Munoz has to do here is just keep hitting his marks, and that's going to make life severely annoying for Rodrigo Mies, because he's not really going to find many chances.
Right now, Kyle Modoff has got to make good with what he's got and run away. Turn off his mirror, which is something you can do in iRacing, and just focus on the track in front of him, because this is a golden opportunity. He was on the fringe of the championship picture, 34 points away. He won't get a bonus point for pole. That'll go to me, so he's 35 points away. If he can somehow snatch fastest lap in the dying stages of this one, he'll grab another point. Plus the extra few he'll net for finishing first, as opposed to what could be third if you are Rodrigo Mies. And you know what can happen in that final rounds.
Well, we just saw that even when things are looking rosy, you just, small mistakes can be costly. As Mies unfortunately found out, all he did was dip a tire off just super briefly, and that changed the entire complexion of the race. That's what's phenomenal here about the PRL and pretty much all of their weekly series, is to be competing for the championship and competing for wins. You almost have to be flawless, because everybody is waiting in the wings to snatch that up. And they are flawless even if they don't have the same pace as you. So, like I said, it's just basically, either you get through clean or you're going to pay the price. And I think Byron Daly just had a wreck in the 60 car.
He's off in the gravel at turn 10. There he is, getting back on the racetrack. Here's the replay. Just locked it up and went deep.
And tiny touch, that won't hurt the car. Now, that will deposit a lot of dirt and gunk all over the track at Lakaisha, though. Just like in real life, that does happen here in the sim. So that can change a little bit of the grip on the outside of the corner. Maybe could change things if we get some battles there later on.
Remember, I'll remind you of the point distribution. Without bonus points being factored in, it's 35 points for the race win, 32 for second, 30 for third. There's a 5-point difference there. And then 28, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20. So it goes down in increments pretty much from outside the top 4. And it definitely weighted towards the front, isn't it? But if you have a retirement like Quero's got, it's a lot of points going away.
It really is. Don't forget, there's the bonus point for a clean race, which I think we can count out for Mies. I believe he'll get at least 2 incidents for his spin. And I'm trying to think if he's had any other offs that we've seen. I'm pretty sure he's had at least a couple here or there. Once you get over 3, then you don't get that bonus point anymore. So Munoz has been relatively clean. He might still have that one. I'm not sure about Modoff and where he sits, though.
All we know is he sits 3 seconds ahead. He is running away, and he is making good with the gap he's been given. And Meets is actually slipping further from Paulo Munoz and into the clutches of David Holland. This is just highlighting the importance of clean air, isn't it?
Suddenly Mies, who is the class of the field, is just struggling back there. You know, the thing we haven't talked about too, though, is some of this could be put down to how you set up your car. If Mies thought that he was going to be up in clean air, you can set up your car to be better in that. And maybe that's why he is struggling so drastically and now starting to fall away, because once he's starting to wear out those tires, scrubbing them off a lot more than when he has just fresh air in front of him, his pace is probably dropping off a little bit because they're overheating. And Holland actually looks like he might have something. I wonder if there is some straight line damage on Mies. Oh, and he's offline now. Candy from a baby, Ryan. Holland made that look easy.
Certainly did. So Rodrigo Meets falls to 4th, and suddenly he's looking at getting 28 points. And if Modolf picks up a bonus point for fastest lap, which is likely with him being out front in clean air as the fuel winds down, and if he keeps it under 3 incidents, which I don't think Meets is going to go, he's going to require 9 points more than him. Drag it back to about a 25-point buffer.
Big wiggle coming out of Vert there for Holland, but isn't going to lose his spot to Mies because he's not able to take advantage. Still, Holland doesn't have this one wrapped up. It may have looked easy on the initial pass, but it seems like Mies is holding on to him, and he's got 11 minutes, so I'm sure if he spies another little slip up from the 25, he's going to be pouncing. In fact, it looks like he's pretty close here if he can just keep with him through the last corner. Nope. Oh, wow. Man, just dropped him. Looks like we've now lost Daly on that one as he's in the pits getting repairs. Lowendick has also retired, and I think Kenny Rodriguez looks to be officially out as he's been in the pits for 27 minutes.
So, if I'm Rodrigo Meets, I'm worried about this, you know? Because suddenly he's got to head into this final race and he's thinking to himself, well, if I'm not out front, I've got no pace. I need to qualify well. And suddenly there's all this pressure on him heading into this 15-minute qualifying session at the final round of the championship. And if he doesn't put it together, then what happens? Maybe his confidence takes a hit. And then he's got 60 minutes to claw it back and to claw his way in amongst the top group and at least just finish. That's what's good for him. Really, all he needs to do is finish inside the top 10 and he should be fine in terms of the championship at this final round, provided he finishes about where he is now in this race. But still, pressure, pressure, pressure.
And this has been one of the flaws of Mies, especially in some of the other series here that we've watched him race in the PRL. He always seems to throw away good opportunities. He's had wins here or there, but he always seems to lose out on the championships because so many times he's thrown away wins or podiums by mistakes that he does on his own too. It's oftentimes what we saw today, just dipping a wheel wrong, going into a corner too hot, spins it for some reason or another, and sometimes even strategic mistakes. And he's really, I keep saying it a lot, he's his own worst enemy, unfortunately. He's got to try and get the mental game down because he's certainly got the pace down.
Yeah, I think outright, he's the fastest on track all season. There's more to racing than just being fast. So a 4.8 second lead for race leader Carl Modolf right now as he stretches away out front. His fastest lap of the race, by the way, was done on lap 3, a 29.4. He's not close to it at the moment. 29.5 for Munoz, 29.42 for Holland. It was a 4-4 for Modov. So at the moment, Holland's there, but a 29-1 for Meats. Can they get down to the start of the race lap times by the end of this one? If not, then Meats picks up a bonus point there.
As much as the fuel is burning off, these tires really do seem to go away unless you're extra gentle with them over the course of a stint. And judging by the way these guys have been racing, I don't think they've been gentle here. So if I'm honest, I don't foresee Modov, Munoz, or Holland being able to overtake him on pace in these final few laps. To see who some of our hard chargers are. Tell you what, Hugo Galaz has actually done fairly well. He might have the most spots gained. He's gone from 20th to 13th, and this is legitimate because he did put a qualifying lap in.
Yeah, this is a decent effort. Up 7. And Hugo Galaz, the number 500 car, putting on a very good performance right now, and he's got just 7 minutes to close this one out. Any chance of him going higher? I don't think so. He's about 4 seconds away from Rodrigo Munoz, so he'd require some mistakes ahead to gain more spots, but sitting pretty. 4 seconds ahead of everybody behind him as well. 16 cars left on the lead lap, and I suspect we'll finish with 15 because Christopher Richards is not far away from being lapped himself.
Compared to what we saw at the start of the season, this is a relatively small field, and that's been a real boon to whoever's leading the race today, because lap traffic has rarely become an issue around here. It's a long enough lap that everybody got spread out pretty quickly, and we've lost already, as I mentioned, about 5 different drivers. So everybody can kind of get their own little spot and focus on their race, and the leader doesn't have to constantly be climbing over lapped cars, which is what can sometimes give opportunities to those behind you, which even if they did, though, at this point, Munoz fallen back to about 5 seconds. So it would have needed to be a lot of lap traffic and just hassle Modov in the worst way.
Pretty impressed by Modov's pace right now, hey? Out to 5 seconds. I mean, what a turnaround for him. Before his pit stop, he was doing
129s and 130, it's like.
It's interesting. His pace is, well, it's slower than what he was doing before the pit stop. So his tires are having a bit of an effect, but I guess the drop-off is less for him because he's in the clean air. Yeah, so Munoz is in the 31s right now, so is Holland, so is Meats, so is Isla for the most part, but he's lapping pretty quickly, Isla. He might get to Meats. But yeah, what a turnaround for Modov.
Yeah, Modov's about the only driver besides Eisler that's able to do most of his in the 130s right now. Those two seem to be flying pretty quickly. There's Modov coming down into Elf right here. And he's only got to do it for, I believe, about 4 more laps. Now, I don't want to take the balloon or the air out of the balloon, but Eisler is now up to about 0.7 of a second. We've seen this story before. I'm crossing my fingers we get at least a different ending this time. Not necessarily because I wish ill on me's, but because I want to see a fight between these two.
See if his pace advantage is enough. There's a general rule of thumb that if you're quick enough to a point where I think it's about a second quicker per lap, that he can overcome the dirty air effect.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And currently Me's 31.7, 31.9, 31.6. Eisler 30.8, 31.4, 31.6. Oh, now the bad news in that is that it does look like Eisler's starting to match the pace of B's, which could mean that the wake is just too much to try and keep up the great pace that he does have.
Check lap times to cross the line here. Yeah, they're identical last lap.
Bad news for fans of Rodrigo Munoz. He is out of the race due to a connection problem. So everybody behind him, you get bumped up one.
Isla takes a tenth and a bit out of Meeks that time. 31.593 plays a 31.703.
The problem for Eisler here is that he's got to make a very decisive move, because he's not going to get many chances with so few laps left on it. So he has to be aggressive, essentially, to make it stick. He can't kind of pitter-patter about and hope, well, that one's not the greatest. It's, if you see an opening, you got to go.
He's got to get there before the final lap, because the most likely of opportunities down at turn 1 on that last lap. If you catch him on the last lap, you've already gone past turn 1, then well, there's not many opportunities left. Turn 10, the only one. It's been so tough to get a move done there. We've barely seen it at all today. Just looking at it from the naked eye, the Meeks is holding this gap now.
Does definitely looks like it. I was going to say, if the bad news for me is Eisler is probably going to be aggressive if he gets a chance, and Mies can't really fight it too hard. Yes, he needs the points, but that's just it. He needs the points, so he can't wreck the car and risk getting in a fight. So he has to really weigh things out and figure, is it worth trying to chop him off or hold around the outside of the corner, et cetera, in these last couple laps.
That time through, Meeks was 0.103 tenths quicker than Isla, which I think might have actually been the gap that Isla was quicker than Meeks on the previous laps. It's exactly the same as it was 2 laps ago. The gap, that is.
Got Modoff getting ready to take the white flag soon here. Looking at our clock, yeah, he's going to get 1 to go next time by. His gap hasn't gotten bigger, what's interesting. Remember, we were talking about it being up to 5 seconds, so it's actually gone down to 4.5. I kind of wonder if he's kind of slowing that 948 car down a little bit, just kind of bringing it home.
Yeah. Easing it home. He crossed the line with 5.3 seconds up his sleeve. It's now down to 4.1. I don't think he's short on fuel either. I don't think he would have underfueled the car with that much, and just a second less on the lane. He's just trying to make sure he brings it home without a mistake. Out of the last corner, he'll see the white flag on his screen. 1 more lap left to go at Barcelona, circa 1995. Round 9, the PRL LMP2 series. It's all in the hands of Carl Modoff right now. The Delta Sport E4K haven't spoken about that. This is good for their team's championship.
Yeah, very good for their championship. And that's not something we talk about as much, because often it's a little bit tougher to try and do the points during the race. But I can tell you that these drivers actually do value these team championships just as much. It's honestly probably the more difficult to win, because of the fact that you need 2 strong drivers. You can't just have one person carry it.
Well, Quero's got a DNF and Meets is 4th. Delta Sport are 1st and 3rd.
Exactly.
58-point gap is going to swing back dramatically in this one. Maybe somewhere around the 30-point margin, I think. Going to be interesting heading into the final race at the same time next week here on the Global SimRacing Channel. But for today, for car 948, it is a glorious pit stop and a faultless second half of the race that is going to propel Carl Modoff and his Delta Sport E4K machine out of the last corner and across the line first. Carl Modoff wins at Barcelona.
Great race for Paulo Munoz as well. Managing to go up 1 spot, earn himself some valuable points to at least keep in the hunt in the championship. Holland may be a distant thought of a championship here. Also, I'm sure he'll be proud of that podium.
across the line for the rest of the drivers as well. I don't think there's any battles yet to be resolved. Gaori roaming comfortably apart. Elias, Overbay, the guy, and Richards. We'll go to a break here on the Global SimRacing Channel, but stay with us. We'll come back, and on the other side of this, you'll have your full results and interviews from Barcelona. Welcome back to the PRL LMP2 Le Mans series from Barcelona-Catalunya. And what a race we saw. Didn't realize it was going to pan out this way over the first half, but look what we've got. Karl Modov is the race winner. Paulo Munoz comes home second. David Holland makes it 2 out of 3 on the podium for Delta Sport E4K. Rodrigo Meets is only 4th. Christian Eisler P5 after a late charge up towards the 88, but he couldn't quite get there. Horatio Calquin P6 ahead of Ignacio Rodriguez Frides. Michel Ferraris 8th. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe and Steve Gaori make up the rest of your top 10.
11 went to Sean Romig, with Hugo Galaz up 8 positions in the end. I do believe that is the hardest charger from 20th to 12th. Overbay, we didn't get to go back and follow his progress. His early pit stop did pay off, and he wound up in 13th. Bagai was P14, up about 5 spots for him. The last one on the lead lap was Christopher Richards in the 15th position. From there on down, we've got Duhamel 16th and Munoz 17th, multiple laps down for Rodrigo. And everybody behind them, sadly, were DNFs today. Ryan?
Yes, indeed, they were. Let's kick things off with our post-race coverage with our race winner, Karl Modov, who got it done. And it was mostly in part, Karl, it looked like, to a fantastic pit stop.
Hey guys, I did not see myself talking to you guys as the winner of this race. About 20 minutes in, Rodrigo's had a 10-second lead or something. He was flying, and the dirty air is just so bad, you really couldn't get any closer than a second to the guy in front of you. So I was just kind of stuck. Just started saving fuel and tires, trying to hope that I could something at the end once the situation and the grip level gets a little more dodgy. Maybe I can make something happen. And then Rodrigo, I don't know what happened to him, a little mistake there, and then everything kind of just fell my way there through the pit stop sequence. And once you're out front, it was like, okay, just no mistakes, because I knew no one was going to be able to pass me unless I made a serious mistake somewhere. So super happy that worked out. Sometimes it goes bad, sometimes it all just kind of comes to you. So that was one of those races, and super grateful.
One thing it does, though, Kyle, is it brings you all together for the final race of the championship. It's still in the hands of Meets, but you're closer than you were. Do you have any hopes heading in of maybe stealing it away, or are you just trying to pick up a second or a third, maybe?
Yeah, I'm going to just shoot for the race win, I think, actually. Having to miss 2 races, unfortunately, because of work, kind of really took me out of it. but that's okay. Luckily all the other races have gone really well, so I don't have to, have a bad result on top of needing a drop. So, yeah, it's with Mauricio having whatever problem he had there, definitely seconds on the table now. So yeah, we'll come into next week looking to try and just get a victory, and then wherever we end up in the championship's all going to be bonus.
Certainly been a fantastic season for you and Delta Sport U4K. Looking at the teams championship, you and David Holland together combined have really closed in the gap again. Part and course thanks to Quero's mishap today. Looking at a teams championship win.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I'm not sure what the exact gap is. I mean, those Mauricio and Rodrigo have been so solid every race all season long. I know that the gap had been pretty large coming into this event, but yeah, a double podium here between me and David really brings us in. So I think I really love Nürburgring, and I think he was saying he really enjoys driving that track too. So hopefully we'll come back next week and get a 1-2 and hopefully steal a team championship. That would be an awesome way to finish the season.
The gap is about 35, 40 points, I reckon. Coming out of today, and it was 58, so who knows? Do it again, and you could steal it at the death. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done today?
Cool. Thanks, guys. I'll thank friends, family, everyone for tuning in. Move Up Lynchburg, Race Factory, Driven Texas, not taxes. That's a different time of year. Unified for Kids, Get Stuck, and Delta Sport. Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us, Carl. Congratulations on a job well done. Next up, we're going to have a chat to Paulo Munoz, standing by with Joe Peak.
Oh, it seemed like that race start was almost race defining for you. Talk to us about that, because that got you up into P2, which gave you a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, well, hello guys, Joe and everyone. Passing here in this track is incredibly difficult. So I knew I had to take the chance if I had one on the start. Luckily I did, and from then Rodrigo just had much better pace than everyone, really. So he just drove into the distance until he made that mistake. I just needed to, I think, underfuel half a liter maybe, more than what I did, which was a lot, to come out ahead of Carl in the pits. And I think that cost me the race.
I did also notice it seemed like the pit stops played a big part in things, not just with the amount of fuel you took. I don't know. Did you notice how much Carl gained on you on the pit entry? Have you gone back and looked at that yet?
No, I haven't. Actually, I haven't done any racing here with this car. I did my first laps yesterday because I haven't had no time this week to practice. And this morning I realized I hadn't practiced pit entry, so I practiced a couple ones, and it's very frightening. You're coming at such speed, and it's a lot tighter than you think. So it looks like he definitely practiced that more than me.
Unfortunately, that may have made the difference along with some of the other things. But coming into the Nürburgring at the finale, just like we were talking about with Carl, you've closed in on Rodrigo. We expect you'll be jumping Mauricio for second place at the least. I mean, what are you thinking heading into that last round? Championship or just go have fun?
Both. Of course, the first goal is always to have fun. If I'm not having fun, then I'm not racing. And it's as simple as that. But now that I'm close to the championship and close to Rodrigo again, just like last season, I'm going to try to go for it, just give it my best.
Congratulations on a podium today. Sorry it wasn't a win, but it's second place. It's still a handy haul of points. Anybody you want to thank before you take off?
Yeah, well, thank you guys for the amazing broadcast as always. Also thank my team, Pure Sims eSport, all the members and the sponsors. And I'd like to thank my dad. He's always watching, and it's kind of late here in Chile. It's half an hour past midnight. So yeah, well, thank all of them.
Well, that was our second place finisher, Paulo Munoz. And Ryan, I believe you've caught up with third place, David Holland.
David, P3 today, making it 2 out of the 3 spots on the podium for Sport U4K. Solid result for you and for your team today.
Yeah, can't be too disappointed with that. Really had a pretty good race there at the start. Was feeling comfortable. Just had a tough time breaking that 1 second barrier to Paulo. I feel like I might have had some pace on him. It's just so tough to follow in these cars, and that's part of it. It didn't do myself any favors because before halfway, I had 12 out of 13 incidents. So that was pretty much my race thrown away at that point. It's so easy to rack them up here. I really just had to kind of tiptoe around there for the last half of the race and try not to make any mistakes or set a tire off. But I'm happy with their place.
Heading in, you were pretty far away in terms of the championship and outside chance. It looks like heading in, you will be probably just still too far away to have a chance at the outright. But the teams is something we spoke to Carl about. Potentially, there's an opportunity there. The points, we think, might be around 35 to 40 points away as opposed to 58 heading in. Do you think that's a realistic possibility?
It's not over till it's over. We'll see what happens next week. Fortunately, it's a track that I like quite a bit, and I think Carl does as well. So hopefully, we can stay out of some of the mess and bring it home good, and that's about all we can do. But we'll see. If we're not out of it, then that definitely gives us a little bit extra motivation for sure.
Yeah, it certainly does. Your race today, then, starting from second, falling back to third, and then Carl got by you. What was the scenario there? Did you let your teammate go? It ended up probably helping him win the race.
Well, it definitely wasn't planned. I already had 12 out of 13 incidents whenever he got by me, and I got a little bit squirrely, and I kind of just had to lock it up and crank it to the right. And, of course, whenever I did that, it just killed all my momentum. So I saw Carl coming up and just let him take it to the inside and give him the best chance that he could have to get up there. And glad I did, because it worked out.
Yeah. So, wait, I already asked you about the championship. Don't mind me. Hey, congratulations on a good podium today. Hopefully we'll have a chat to you next week as well. But who do you want to thank for helping you today?
Yeah, for sure. Got to thank the team, of course, Delta Sports. Thanks to Carl. I think we did a great job this week, kind of getting some strategy nailed down beforehand and making sure we had set up under us that we felt comfortable with. The team sponsors, Move Up Lynchburg, Race Factory, Driven Texas, Unified Kids, and Delta Sport. Congrats, Carl, for winning and Paul for coming in second. And as always, got to thank my wife for supporting me with this. And my dad was even in there today spotting for me, so thank him as well. And you guys at GSRC for the awesome broadcast, and PRL for organizing and putting it on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, David. A well-driven podium today. So, I think, Joe, that might bring us to the end of our broadcast. Final thoughts on this one?
Thoughts are, well, that, if we're honest, that went a little bit like we expected, that the drivers were going to struggle today. But this also proved who can handle that sort of situation. And sadly, the answer today was that Mies could not, which ultimately cost him the win.
Certainly did. Big thanks to Simsa and ButtKicker for their continued support of this series, and of course Precision Racing League for helping to put the entire thing together. Plus, this broadcast wouldn't be possible without the companies that provide all the software and hardware for our shows, which are listed here on your screen, as well as Junalon provides all of our music. Big thanks to Joe and Sean with me today. You can find out more about GSRC over on our social media at GSR Channel on Twitter, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. Don't forget to hit subscribe to us on YouTube as well, so that you don't miss a moment of the action. We've got some upcoming races listed at the moment up on the screen, so check them out and mark them down. But for tonight, from all of us here in the booth, thanks for joining us, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.